Hello, hi, and welcome. If you're new here, my name is Sarah and this is Wicked Reading. So today's video is kind of spur of the moment, so I apologize now, it might be a little bit chaotic. I didn't really plan to do this, but I was just thinking about it, and I've recently got a Kindle. Here's my Kindle. She's very cute. I love her. I got a Kindle maybe like 4 months ago, and I've downloaded so many things on it, and I feel like at this point I don't even know what's on it or what some of these books are even about. So in this video, we are going to discuss all the books that are lurking on my Kindle, and it serves a couple purposes. One, so it reintroduces me to the books that I may have forgotten I even had downloaded on this Kindle, and rediscover what these books are about. And two, possibly show you guys some books that you might want to also download on your Kindle. So all of the books I'm going to show you are through Kindle Unlimited, but I wanted to talk really quick about my Kindle in general because now I've had it, well, maybe 5 months. I've had it for 4 or 5 months now, and if you're thinking about getting a Kindle but you're not quite sure if it's for you, let's talk about it. So I have the paperwhite version, and when I was initially looking for Kindles, this one stuck out to me the most because it is water resistant, and it's not the smallest, but it's not the biggest. It's kind of middle of the road in terms of size. I was nervous that it would feel very small, and while it is small, I can hold it with one hand if I wanted to, but I have a little pop socket on there to hold it like this. While it is small, it's not too small, and you can make the font bigger if you need to, or smaller. I have it kind of on a smaller range. Also, you can change not only the brightness of the screen, but whether it's warmer or cooler toned, which I really like. And I don't think that the warmer versus cooler tone is possible on the cheaper Kindles. I believe this one was like $150. I'll correct myself on the screen if I'm wrong. I believe this was $150, and it came with 3 months of free KU, Kindle Unlimited. Now, reading on it, I didn't know how I would feel about it because I'm such a physical book type of person. I love turning pages. I love flipping ahead, seeing how many pages are left in each chapter, where the next break is, smelling fresh books. I love it. I really love my physical books, but I have found that I really do enjoy reading on this. One, because I can read in any position. I can lay down, have it over me, I could set it up in front of me and have it propped, and then obviously you can read in the dark, so it's much more accessible in that way, so I really like that. And I have learned since having this that once you start a book on it, it figures out how fast you read, so it eventually will actually tell you how long it will take you to get through each chapter. So you get to a chapter, you hit the top, and the information comes up, and it'll say 12 minutes to read. So overall, I have really enjoyed it. I still love my physical books and my physical collection much more. Having books on the Kindle just doesn't feel like they're really mine. I find myself having less of a pull to have to read these books, where I feel like I need to get through my physical collection, and I more readily want to pick up a book, and it just feels a little bit more like an accomplishment when I finish a physical book for me personally. So that's also why we're doing this video, is I need to hold myself accountable. I need to look at what I have on this Kindle, and I need to start chipping away at this library. Now, you will notice there's a little bit of a theme with my KU books. I've recently tried to ease myself into kind of this dark romance genre. So I do have quite a bit of dark romance on here, and then fantasy romance, and then there is a little bit of horror mixed in there as well, but it definitely leans a lot more into spicy romance books and dark romance and fantasy romance. Honestly, some of these books I downloaded just out of a recommendation, and I don't even know if I knew what the book how to do with. There's a few books that have since been deleted off my library that I just kind of downloaded them per recommendation, and I started reading them, and I realized it wasn't for me. I realized I didn't really know what the synopsis was before I even downloaded it, and it's obviously since deleted. Most of those are DNF. So let's actually get into it now. So the very first book that I have at the bottom of my library is Paradise Club by Tim Meyer. This book was on my summer TBR. I was supposed to read this while I was on vacation because it's a quick little slasher. I didn't. But this book has to do with a vacation resort called Paradise Club. And this FBI agent is actually there on vacation with his family. And turns out there's an event at this Paradise Club that wasn't on the brochure. And that is, quote, a dangerous game pitting the hotel's guests against a gang of bloodthirsty maniacs. So yeah, it's pretty much just like a slasher where it's these hotel guests versus all these like maniacs that want to kill everybody. Again, this was supposed to be a read that was just light and fluffy on vacation. I didn't get to it. I don't know if I'll ever get to it. We'll see. I'm still going to keep it on the Kindle for now. Maybe it'll come in handy next summer and I'll feel more drawn to it. Next up, we have Rhapsody by Laura Thalassa or Thalassa. Now, I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, this might be the book that inspired Sarah J. Maas. No, it can't, well, it says it's published 2022, but that might be because it's a new cover. It might be the new cover that's published then. So this may or may not be the book that inspired Sarah J. Maas to write the ACOTAR series. I don't know, don't quote me at all. Let's see what this book is even about. So it says this is a dark fantasy romance between a siren and a bargainer she owes countless favors to. Calypso Lillis is a siren with a very big problem, one that stretches up her arm and far into her past. For the last 7 years, Callie has been wearing a bracelet of black beads up her wrist, magical IOUs for favors she once received. Only death or repayment will fulfill her obligations. So that's kind of like the tattoos in ACOTAR, so maybe this is the book. I don't know. Everyone knows that if you need a favor, you go to the bargainer to make it happen. He's a man who can get you anything you want, at a price. And everyone knows that sooner or later he always collects. But for Callie, he never asks for repayment, not until now. When Callie finds the bargainer in her room, a grin on his lips and a twinkle in his eyes, she knows things are about to change. At first is admitting a truth, a single bead's worth, acknowledging the attraction between them. Ooh. But the bargainer is after more than just rekindling their connection. Something is happening in the other world. Fae warriors are going missing one by one, and only the women are returned, each in a glass casket, a child clutched to her breast. For the bargainer to save his people, he'll need the help of the siren he spurned long ago, if she can forgive him. So I actually had no idea that there was a siren in this book, but I am interested. I can't say that I want to pick this up right now, but it's staying on the Kindle. Okay, so next up we have A Dawn of Onyx by Kate Golden, and I actually don't think that this is available on KU anymore, so I don't know if I'll even still be able to read it. I'm still getting used to how Kindle works and KU works. It is still downloaded, but when I pull it up on the store, it says Kindle price is $10.99, so this may not be available for KU anymore. I don't even know if I can read it anymore, but let's read what it's about. So it says, captured by the king of darkness, she was forced to find the light within. Arwen Valendale never expected to be the brave one, offering her life to save her brothers. Now she's been taken prisoner by the most dangerous kingdom on the continent and made to use her rare magical abilities to heal the soldiers of the vicious Onyx King. Arwen knows better than to face the ancient wicked woods that surround the castle on her own, which means working with a fellow prisoner might be her only path to freedom. Unfortunately, he is as infuriating as he is cunning, and seems to take twisted pleasure in playing on Arwen's deepest fears. But here in Onyx Kingdom, trust is a luxury she can't afford. To make it out of enemy territory, she'll have to navigate backstabbing royals, dark magic, and dangerous beasts. But untold power lies inside Arwen, dormant and waiting for a spark. If she can harness it, she just might be able to escape with her life and hopefully her heart. Okay, the line that says, unfortunately, he's as infuriating as he is cunning, that makes me think that the banter is going to be my type of banter, and he's going to be very, like, he's just gonna mess with her a lot, and I really like that. So I'm really interested in this one. This one I'm the most interested in so far. It looks like it's still letting me turn pages and stuff, so I might try to read this one sooner than later, just in case there's like something where it ends up being wiped from my library and then it's not available to download anymore. Next up we have Gothicana, a dark academia gothic romance. So this one I got recommended by Lachlan over at Locke's Library. She's the reason that I downloaded this one, and the whole like dark academia gothic romance sounds very good to me. So let's read the synopsis fully. It says, an outcast her entire life, Corvina Clem is left adrift after losing her mother. When she receives the admission letter from the mysterious University of Varenmore, she accepts it as a sign from the universe. The last thing she expects, though, is an olden, secluded castle on top of a mountain riddled with secrets, deceit, and death. An enigma his entire life, Vad Devereux likes being a closed book, but knowing exactly everything that happens in the university. A part-time professor working on his thesis, Vad has been around long enough to know the dangers the castle possesses. And he knows the moment his paths cross with Corvina, she's dangerous to everything that he is. They shouldn't have caught each other's eyes. They cannot be. But a chill-inducing, century-old mystery forces them to collide. People have disappeared every 5 years for over 100 years, and Corvina is getting clues to unraveling it all, and Vad needs to keep an eye on her. So it sounds like it might have like a student-professor relationship, which I actually like, so I'm interested. I wonder, it's almost giving me, like, his name's Vad. Is he a vampire? Is this vampire? It doesn't say, and I'm totally just like guessing, but maybe. And if it is, I'm interested. So yeah, that one sounds really good. I don't know if I like it more or less than A Dawn of Onyx. I'm more intrigued because I feel like the synopsis says less. So I'm really interested. Next we have Black Rose by Karina Hall. So this one is a sequel to a book that I did physically read, and that was Blood Orange. And this is like a dark romance with a vampire and a vampire slayer. And Black Rose is the sequel to it. I will definitely eventually get to it. I just like haven't been that drawn to it because I had very mixed feelings with the first one. I have a reading blog on it from a while ago. If you're interested in that, I'll put it wherever it goes up above and down below. But yeah, so that's the sequel, so that has to stay on. I already know what to expect with that one. Next up, I have a few horror books listed. So I was obviously in the mood to have some more horror on my Kindle at this point. So the first one is Mallrats, a slasher novel. This is pretty much just a slasher that takes place in 1999 in a shopping mall. That's all I know about it. That's all I need to know about it. It's a slasher. Slashers are slashers. Next up, we have Children of Fallen Gods by Carissa Broadbent. This is another sequel. This is the second book to the World of Lost Hearts trilogy. Now, I am going to actually erase this one for now because I do have it physically. The reason I had it on my Kindle was in order to read it while I was on vacation, which I obviously didn't do. So I'm just going to delete that one for now because I will just read it physically. Next, we have an extreme horror novella called The Clown Hunt, an extreme horror novel. I don't think that I've necessarily read any like quote unquote extreme horror, so I guess I just wanted to have the option to do it. But I don't know. It just says in 2016 a mysterious prank overtook America. The streets and the forest were overflowing with people dressed as killer clowns, which is like a real thing. Do you guys remember that? That was a strange time in history. It was harmless and fun, just a quick, cheap scare exacerbated by the media, but an angry group has decided to put a stop to the national nonsense. They have abducted a group of clowns and have taken them deep into the woods. A male stripper, a gaggle of social media influencers, a party clown, and a few other innocents. Now they are chasing them, hunting them, trapping them, and torturing them. A simple death seems like a mercy. So yeah, I mean, it's a clown-based extreme horror. I'll keep it on here for now. I can't necessarily say I'm gonna read it anytime soon, but if I'm in the mood for a clown book, I have one. Next up, we have Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I do actually own a physical copy of this. I have the Fairy Loot edition. I don't remember what month that came in, but I just didn't want to read my special edition of it, so I downloaded it on here. I've heard fantastic things about this book, so I really should read it. So I loosely know what this has to do with. I just know that there's two rival journalists, and it says they find love through a magical connection. They must face the depths of hell in a war among gods to seal their fate forever. And that's actually all I'm going to go in with. This one stands out against all the other like fantasy romance I have on this. So that's enough for me, and I really am intrigued by the whole like war among gods, having gods in a fantasy book. I really like having that. I'm really eager to try this one out because I've heard great things. Next I have another horror book, and that is Seed by Ania Alborn, I think is how you say their name. So this says, with nothing but the clothes on his back and something horrific snapping at his heels, Jack Winter fled his rural Georgia home when he was still just a boy. Watching the world he knew vanish in a trucker's rearview mirror, he thought he was leaving an unspeakable nightmare behind forever. But years later, the bright new future he's built suddenly turns pitch black as something fiendishly familiar looms dead ahead. When Jack, his wife Amy, and their 2 small children survive a violent car crash, it seems like a miracle. But Jack knows what he saw on the road that night, and it wasn't divine intervention. The profound evil from his past won't let him die, at least not quickly. It's back and it's hungry, ready to make Jack pay for running, to work its malignant magic on his angelic youngest daughter, and to whisper a chilling promise, I've always been here and I'll never leave. Country comfort is no match for spine-tingling Southern Gothic suspense. That sounds really good. It's actually pretty short too. It's only 246 pages on here. So, oh, and actually it has an audiobook that comes when you download Kindle Unlimited. So I might just do that and listen to that on audiobook during my drive time. It sounds like it might be more of like a Southern horror with demons. So I like that. I have one other extreme horror on here. There was a time where I thought I was going to try some more extreme horror. I haven't really wanted to be totally honest. And I have Brother by, oh, this is by Ania Alborn too. So she wrote both Seed and Brother. Interesting. Okay. So this is called Brother. And it says, deep in the heart of the Appalachia stands a crooked farmhouse miles from any road. The Morrows keep to themselves, and it served them well so far. When girls go missing off the side of the highway, the cops don't knock on their door, which is a good thing, seeing as to what's buried in Morrow's backyard. But 19-year-old Michael Morrow isn't like the rest of his family. He doesn't take pleasure in the screams that echo through the trees. Michael pines for normalcy, and he's sure that someday he'll see the world beyond West Virginia. When he meets Alice, a pretty girl working at a record shop in a small nearby town of Dahlia, he's immediately smitten. For a moment, he nearly forgets about the monster he's become. But his brother Rebel is all too eager to remind Michael of his place. So it doesn't say on here like any trigger warnings or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure that it's quite disturbing, and there might even be some like gross family stuff going on. I'm gonna have to double check on that, because if that's the case, I'm probably not gonna read this one, to be honest. I don't know, a lot of people were reading it at the time that I downloaded this, but I don't think I want to do it. But maybe if you guys want to try to convince me to read it, go for it. Let me know if you've read it and what you thought. It's just not really tickling any type of fancy in me right now, but it does have a pretty decent rating. It is on here 4.3 out of 5, which is actually really high, especially for a horror book. So maybe I will. I don't know. And then now I think all the rest on here are like fantasy romance. So I do have Blood Solace on here by Bella Roth. This is a sequel to the Blood Grace series. I did read Blood Mercy, which is the first book, last month, I believe. It's in my last like monthly wrap-up video, so I'll link that too if you want to know more about that. This series is pretty much a fantasy romance series with vampires and humans. Next, I have a book called Lady of Darkness. So this is book 1 of the Lady of Darkness series. I don't know how many books are in this series. Oh, it's 5 books. 5 books are total in this series. I've had this one on for a while now. It looks like I downloaded it July 13th, and I don't remember at all what this is about, so let's see. It says, shadows always return to the darkness, a cage. Owned by a ruthless assassin lord, Scarlet Monroe and her 2 sisters have been trained since they were children to torture and take life. They are the most feared trio on the continent, but they are also wild and unpredictable. A tragic night has Scarlet finding herself locked away in a noble's household, trapped and forgotten until she's ready to fall into line. Until the day she is presented with a job. If she completes the assignment, her payment will be something she has coveted for 10 years. Revenge against the Fey Fire Prince who brutally killed her mother 10 years ago. Is she willing to sacrifice her ideals for retribution? But when children begin disappearing from her home, all her plans are put on hold as she races to save the most innocent. With the help of old friends, a jilted lover, and a mysterious newcomer who claims the magic of the Fae is possible in the mortal lands, Scarlet delves into the darkest corners of the world. Forgotten secrets will come to life, and she will discover the darkness extends far beyond her own kingdom. There are some trigger warnings on here, so it says it features sexual scenes, sexual trauma, violence, and jealous/possessive themes. So if you've read that book, let me know what you thought of it. I recently downloaded another vampire one, and it is called Court of the Vampire Queen by Katie Roberts. This is the author that wrote Neon Gods and other books like that I know went viral on TikTok. I haven't read anything from her yet. This one doesn't seem to have amazing reviews on it, but I really just wanted to have a spicy vampire book available to me if I get in the mood for that. If you have like a spicy vampire book recommendation, please share them. I think that the synopsis of this one sounds really good, so obviously there might be some issues with the execution, but let's go ahead and read the synopsis. 3 powerfully alluring vampire men and one queen to rule them all. All Mina ever wanted was to escape her father's control. Half human, half vampire, she lived eternally torn between 2 worlds, never fully experiencing the pleasures of either, until her father chose her as the pawn in his latest political move, gifting her to the darkly powerful and dangerously seductive Malachi Zion. Malachi is not a vampire to be trifled with. He rules with an iron fist and has a reputation for the darkest of sins. But the longer Mina spends with him, the more she realizes he's not the monster she first thought. And as fear blends into lust, then trust, then something more, Malachi opens Mina up to a world she never knew could be hers for the taking, including the love of Malachi's 2 closest friends and companions. Now surrounded by all 3 men, the center of their shockingly seductive world, Mina may finally have the power to face down her father and take back the life and crown that by all rights should be hers. Okay, so I think that this one is probably it sounds like it's going to be one of the most spicy that I have on here, which we'll see how we feel about that. It sounds like it might be like a 3 men, 1 woman type of relationship. I don't know how I feel about that. I've never read a book with like multiple partners, so I don't know. But I like the whole like half human, half vampire situation going on. Okay, yeah, it does say a spicy polyam. I have no idea how I feel about this. I've never read a book like that. So we'll see if and when I eventually get to this. I also have on here What Lies Beyond the Veil. It is the first book in the Of Flesh and Bone series. This one went pretty viral too. Again, I have no idea what it's about. So it says, once we worship them as gods. For nearly 400 years, the veil has protected us from the Fae of Alfheimer, I don't know. In their absence, our lives have shifted from decadence and sin to survival and virtue under the guidance of the new gods. I've spent my entire life tending to the gardens next to the boundary between our worlds, drawn to the shimmering magic, like a moth to the flame. All of that changes the day the veil shatters, unleashing the Fae upon our world once again. The magic of fairy marks those of us they mean to take, but the mist guard protecting Nothrek will kill us all before they let the Fae have us. There's no choice but to flee everything I've ever known, not if I want to live to see my 21st birthday as a free woman. Now they'll claim what's theirs. But before they capture me, Callum saves me from the wild hunt. Oh, that's a thing in The Witcher. Fae marked and on the run, he is able to fight back in ways I only dream of. From tentative alliance to all-consuming passion, our bond strengthens as the Fae close in and evil lurks ever nearer. And it does say this book is intended for readers who are 18 and older, with mature language, graphic violence, and explicit content with darker elements. There are 4 books total in this series, at least as of now. I don't know if it's a completed series or not. That's all I'm seeing on here. So I am really interested in this one. This is definitely one of the top books on here I'm interested in. It has a 4.2 out of 5 on the Kindle, which is pretty good. Oh, I actually have one more horror on here, which I accidentally overlooked, and that is Hex by Thomas Old Hulvet. This one I saw on Kelsey's channel from Slime & Slashers. So that's where I heard about this book, but it may have been a book club pick. I don't quite remember, but I do remember Kelsey talking about it. It says, whoever is born here is doomed to stay till death. Whoever settles never leaves. Welcome to Black Spring, the seemingly picturesque Hudson Valley town haunted by the Black Rock Witch, a 17th century woman whose eyes and mouth were sewn shut. Muzzled, she walks the streets and enters homes at will. She stands next to the children's bed for nights on end. Everybody knows that her eyes may never be opened or the consequences will be too terrible to bear. The elders of Black Spring have virtually quarantined the town by using high-tech surveillance to prevent their curse from spreading. Frustrated with being kept in lockdown, the town's teenagers decide to break their strict regulations and go viral with the haunting. But in so doing, they send the town spiraling into dark medieval practices of the distant past. So medieval practices, I like that word. I wonder what that's gonna mean. Since this town is haunted by this witch, I wonder if it's gonna lean into kind of like historical stuff and we're gonna get like the story of why this witch's eyes and mouth were sewn shut and like why she now haunts the town. I don't know. I feel like that happens a lot with witch books or books that have to do with a town that was cursed by a witch, is we kind of get the story, the historical story of it. It reminds me of like Fear Street. I don't know if that's actually where this book goes, but I wouldn't be surprised if it does. So I actually have 3 more books to talk about. I didn't realize I had so many books on this. So I definitely need to start actually reading some of these and chipping away at my library. So next on here I have Manacled by Cinlene Yu, I think is how you say that. And this is actually a fanfic of Hermione and Draco from the Harry Potter series, obviously. I downloaded this because Lachlan, again, at Lach's Library, she loves this one. I've never read a fanfic like knowingly. I may have read a book that was kind of like secretly a fanfic. I am really intrigued, since I've never read one before, how I would feel about it. Because I do love Harry Potter and the Harry Potter world and series. Ever since I was little, I've rewatched those movies countless times. Yeah, so I don't know how I would feel about it, but I'm very curious. So I do have that on here. And that is one that's not available on KU. If you go to Lachlan's Instagram, she actually has instructions on her Instagram that she made of how to download it and then get it on your Kindle, which is amazing. So shout out to Lachlan for doing that. She also loves fanfics of Hermione and Draco. She's read a ton of them. So if you're interested in that very particular type of subgenre, go to her channel. She has a ton of videos about them. And then next on here, I have Fear the Flames by Olivia Rose Darling. This, I think, recently came out. Okay, not that recent. It says published November 19th, 2022. But I've seen it around a lot recently. I don't know if TikTok had something to do with that, but I was intrigued and I downloaded it. But anyways, it says Princess, Prisoner, Runaway, Queen. Elowyn Atara, Princess of Imirath, sorry, came into the world like a firestorm made flesh. A princess with a link to 5 dragons should have been a blessing to her kingdom, but her blessing became her curse. The little girl in shackles became a knife-wielding woman with a thirst for retaliation. Now Queen of Estilian, a secret kingdom she forged through strength and survival, Elowyn needs a way to feed her rising population. She never thought she would have the force to take on Imirath, but when the snarky commander Caden Veals of Veraveth, her father's enemy kingdom, offers her a deal she's been dreaming of for years, how can she not take it? Even if he ignites her temper like no other, nothing unites 2 begrudging allies more than a common enemy. The pair of them, among with 3 accomplices, will navigate their partnership, politics, and attempt to pull off the greatest heist their world has ever known. 5 people, all united through revenge, will have to transcend the odds stacked against them and infiltrate the impenetrable castle if they want to reap the rewards before someone reaps their souls. Putting aside their differences to accomplish a common goal because everyone knows vengeance is a promise signed in blood. okay, interesting. So there's a lot more going on than like I would have thought. The whole like with a link to 5 dragons, that sounds really cool. I haven't read too many dragon books, but after reading like The Fourth Wing, I really want to read some more dragon books. But if I'm being honest, the synopsis doesn't like make me want to pick it up immediately, but it does stand out and seems quite unique compared to the other ones we've already talked about. All the other ones easily kind of can blend together at times. This one stands out a little bit more. It seems like it's going to lean more fantasy versus like any type of romance. It seems like a romance might be a side plot and not kind of like the main focus. And then the final book I have on my Kindle, whew, I didn't know if we were going to get here or not. So this book is like totally random. I haven't heard anybody talk about it. I just came across it on the Amazon app and the cover is absolutely stunning to me, and then the title of it really piqued my interest. So it is called Hellfire by Mariel Pomeroy, and it is described as a dark romance high fantasy novel. It says 2 immortal creatures, 1 dangerous bargain. After the death of her mother, I don't know how to say this character's name. Ahea finds herself stained by more blood than she can hide in the perpetual daylight of her home of Kalosiros. She escapes the realm but pays the price, giving up her immortality and her powers. Once a Mithra with light at her fingertips, she becomes near mortal. Her desperate search for asylum leads her to the doorstep of the only place out of her abusive family's reach, a realm that deals in death and darkness unapologetically. But nothing in this world is free, and to buy her way to dubious safety, she's forced to give up the only thing she has left to barter, her soul in exchange for 7 days in the devil's realm. Ariok, the ruler of Nephilim, is eager to dangle his new little pet in front of the Mithra who have caused irreparable damage in his life, but he doesn't expect the effect Ahea's soul has on both of them once it's stamped on his arm. The pull between them is all-consuming. They crave each other between sharp woods and angry exchanges in an increasingly passionate bond that threatens to shatter the delicate balance of everything. I'm sure I'm saying all of these names wrong. I know that there's pronunciation guides once you actually start the book, but I can't look at that while I'm reading this at the same time. It does say Hellfire is an adult fantasy romance that contains graphic violence, general dark themes, swearing, and sex scenes, some of which include dubious consent, and should in no way be misconstrued as a depiction of a healthy relationship. So yeah, there's definitely some trigger warnings there for that. I haven't read anything with like dubious consent yet, so I don't know how I'm gonna feel about that, but that seems to be kind of a running theme with the books that I seem to download on Kindle Unlimited and on my Kindle. They're definitely on the darker romance aspect, and I don't really know what I do and don't like in dark romance yet. So far, not much. So far, I have not had very much luck with dark romance. The only darker romance I have really enjoyed so far was the Mind F series by St. Abbey, which I do talk about in my most recent wrap-up video, which I did read on my Kindle, but I have since deleted the books since I didn't want them to take up like room on here. But that's the only like darker romance I've really enjoyed so far. But I have started a few books on here that have been DNF'd and deleted from my Kindle already. So I'm not having the best of luck with dark romance. I'm still gonna try, but I'm very quick to DNF a dark romance at this point. So those are all of the books that I currently have on my Kindle. Again, if you have read any of those books, let me know what your thoughts were on them. Let me know if I should absolutely try to prioritize any of those books. Feel free to share what is also on your Kindle or recommendations you have for KU. As always, thank you so much for spending some of your time with me while I sit and talk about books. If you haven't yet, please give the video a like, subscribe for future content, turn on the bell notification, all the fun YouTube things that help your girl out, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye!